Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome Phillip Kennedy Johnson back to Word Balloon. What am I hearing? Oh, wait, hang on one second here. Are you hearing an echo?
I think it just went away. There we go. Hey, John.
Oh, all right, there we go. Excellent. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, man, you too. How's everything going?
Everything's fine, man, and you're killing it. Good Lord. What an epic story we're getting in action. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. You've got a couple other big announcements that just dropped. But yeah, I truly, man, this is going to be a hell of a omnibus when they collect it all, and I hope that's part of the plan.
That is the plan for sure. Yeah, we're trying to make a big tome for the shelves.
So, I mean, you've started a new arc with was it with 1043, the latest issue? I mean, it's obviously still the story, the war world story of Superman trapped the new Mongol son. Much more deadly and ruthless, I think, than classic Mongol. And like, is it going to be 12 issues total? Is it going to be more than that? How long of a story is it?
I'm hoping the final volume collects Warworld Rising, what we're calling Warworld Saga now, but it'll be called like Warworld Arena when it's collected in like a trade.
Sure.
And then Warworld Revolution, that'll be like the Warworld Saga will be the story, the whole thing, And that's actually one of the things I wanted to come on here to talk to you about, is that you've been super supportive, and I mean, you got a great audience. So I wanted to tell everyone that the last chapter is just about on us. We're about to announce the last chapter of, we're going to announce right now. The last chapter of the Warworld Saga is going to be a double-sized single issue that comes out in September called Warworld Apocalypse. And that is going to be the exclamation point on the end of the whole series.
Oh,
and then Clark's coming back to Earth, and I'm super stoked.
Exciting. Very, very exciting. So is your action run not impacted by the story that Josh Williamson is telling in the Justice League book?
Not so much. There's when the stuff is coming out on the shelf that same month, it's going to it might feel like a disconnect. Like, how can this all be happening at the same time? But as you know, like sometimes we have to figure out when certain events are happening to make things line up. And there's going to be because of when the events, like the beginning and end, where the Dark Crisis stuff takes place, we'll sort all that out. So without spoiling what's coming, I can't tell what's coming in Josh's book, but
sure,
it is definitely all, the timeline's all sorted out. So
they'll fit eventually.
Because right now it matters to readers a lot. I totally get that as one of those. But in a couple of years, people are going to be reading Dark Crisis on its own.
Absolutely, buddy.
And hopefully Warworld Saga the same way.
Yeah.
So we're kind of writing to our own stories and just making it, figuring out ways to make it all work out together in the same sandbox with the same toys. But we're all just trying to tell our own stories and make each volume its own awesome thing.
Yeah, that's the best way to handle it. Absolutely, man. It's the test of time, not today. And I understand that. And I think it's a reasonable question that I'm sure is on readers' minds. But by the same token, it's like, no, man, we don't want your story to be interrupted, and we want you to have its fruition and everything. So, Robert Willing is already saying, so it ends before Action 1050. I'm curious what you have planned for that milestone.
What's up, Robert? Good to see you on here. Yeah, it is going to end before 1050. And so, there's the monthly series going to continue to come out, and then that's all leading up to Warworld Apocalypse, which is a double-sized. And then that will give us a few issues to kind of spoil up for what's coming in 1050. And I wish I could spoil that too. It's just a little bit too far out. I can't talk about what we're going to do there. But I'll say somebody online was really, like, when they started announcing all the Batman One Bad Day books, like they kind of have the Bat House is doing a lot of kind of like Killing Joke approaches to a lot of their villains, and like making like the definitive either an origin or like a really awesome single volume with killer creative teams and all these different villains. And somebody was like, would you want to, like, why don't you do this for Superman's people? And I was like, my first thought about, I mean, it was really supportive and awesome to hear that, but I don't feel like it suits the Superman rogues gallery quite as well. Like, imagine like a Darkseid one bad day, like Darkseid's it's like a force of nature, and the
Yeah.
same thing with Mongo's been around. We're establishing now Mongo's been around for 1,000 generations, and Brainiac's been around. Like, it's kind of crazy to think about like an origin or like a slice of life type thing for some of these crazy godlike villains. Like One More Day for Mongol is basically the War World saga that we've been doing since last March. So I will say that this is hopefully this has established Mongol as super scary and threatening and powerful and everything that Mongol should be. Complicated, which especially with the annual that we'll see coming out, I think next week, we'll start to see more and more of Mongol and how not sympathetic, but definitely complicated, and we'll see what his motivations have been. And then when that's done, we have a very similar plan for, well, not similar in the execution, but we want to do the same thing for another one of Superman's villains, one of my favorite Superman villains ever. We're going to be doing a similar kind of thing where we just blow them out and make them really complicated and dark and scary and like a true threat for someone like Superman.
Understood. Yeah, man. I mean, unlike Batman and Flash, I really think the list of Superman villains, hey, obviously Luthor from a mental standpoint and his resources. I suppose there's, Parasite. I don't want you to blink or anything if I'm hitting anybody that you're thinking about as far as who you might bring back. But yeah, I mean, it's just the power level, because also, especially like during the Weisinger era, not that there was anything wrong with it in the Julie Schwartz era, there weren't that many villains that could really go toe to toe with Superman. And obviously Mongol Senior was certainly one like that. But I think new Mongol, if you will, current Mongol, is deadlier, because I think we've already seen Superman kind of beat old Mongol. So we really do need a younger threat. And also, as Superman is kind of aging up, I noticed the Great Temples on Superman in the book. Is time moving at a different rate on War World than it is?
No,
I mean,
the his appearance, as far as the Great Temples and everything, that all kind of spins out of the events of the Breach that we. So what do I actually call that? The Golden Age was the name of that arc. I did that 2-issue thing with Hester. And in that story, there was like a dimension opens up, and there's this Superman essentially gets radiation poisoned, and he's he and John are duking it out with these monsters, and Superman is like, he loses a step and John doesn't, and that's kind of a just establishing that he and John are not the same biologically, right? Like they are a little bit different. John obviously is half human, and he has
right.
different. As he's coming up in his dad's footsteps, kind of like standing on his dad's shoulders, he gets a little bit more nuance over his heat vision, and there's little differences in their power set. And for whatever reason, John is not affected by the radiation from the Breach quite as badly as his dad. And at the beginning of War World Rising, Batman and Adam are like Ray Palmer are kind of trying to figure it out. And Ray's like, I think everything's going to be okay. It could be just fluctuations in solar flares and all that. And Batman's like, I don't think so. I think you have radiation poisoning, and it's probably going to kill you. So they've been, since then, and then during that same time, Grant Morrison's miniseries was coming out. And
Yes.
And that is showing Superman with the Great Temples, like
Indeed.
somewhat depowered. And everyone's like, this isn't the same thing. But we find out later that he was kind of using the authority to mask his
weakening
state.
Sure.
And he's still, even now, it's still affecting him. He's still he's still kind of unwell.
Well, again, that's why I love the story too, because it's, anything to make it harder for Superman. I mean, that's, again, I grew up in the 70s. Superman was pushing planets, and Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, the late Neil Adams, and unfortunately the late Denny O'Neil, they had to, they decided, hey, we gotta power him down. He's a little too strong. and make it a little harder for him and stuff. And certainly in the Byrne era, I think he became a little less powerful. And even we're seeing it, I think, in the TV show. Certainly, I like the fact that Superman has to push harder to kind of win
Yeah,
and everything,
I
as opposed to being the omnipotent powerhouse.
right. I like both. I really like both takes. I thought that one of the cool things about the Man of Steel film was like seeing him kind of get his sea legs, figure out what he can do, what he can't do. Even he couldn't, like, didn't know yet. Like, will this building falling on me kill me, or like is a nuke going to do it? Like, he doesn't know what his limits are yet, and that was kind of
Sure.
cool to see. If I had my druthers, I don't know. I kind of like pushing planets. I think it would be awesome to see him like truly deeply powerful, who can just do like this godlike being who just loves us and is like, very compassionate and, cares about old ladies crossing the street, and he has the power to push planets. I think that's awesome. The issue with his powers, I mean, it was a conversation, of course, but
Yeah,
was, I mean, Grant's book was already in the works,
sure.
and plus the whole idea of him being a gladiator on Warworld doesn't make any goddamn sense if he can just do anything.
Well, sure.
So
Certainly.
we had to figure out a way to make it work for the story, and this is all kind of foreshadowed in the future state stuff that we did, where
Yep.
there's kind of like this big nerd hang around the campfire where everyone's like, where do we think let's talk about how Superman saved us, and where do we think he is now, and what's he doing, why isn't he here? And Sadie, the main character of that story, it was like, he's, we should have known he was Superman the whole time, with his writing. He was telling us the whole time how great he was. And he wasn't Superman because he could run really fast or hit really hard. And this one guy's like, actually, that is why he's great. And he's great because he's the fastest and the best and the strongest. That's why he always wins. And then we see, and people are talking about these stories about, I think he became, the pure energy. Someone else is like, I think he's seeding, Kryptonian heroes all across the multiverse and all that.
Sure.
And then we see where he actually is, and he's getting dragged through the mud on Warworld, a slave, but he's still doing the work and still showing us that he is still Superman, even when he's no more powerful than we are.
Absolutely,
and,
man.
And that is kind of the point of this whole. Well, that is one of several like mission statements of this run. Part of it was to make Mongol like a true threat, like something like flesh out the Rogues Gallery, flesh out Warworld, flesh out the DC universe, but also just to remind everyone it's not his powers that make him strong.
100%, man. No, he's showing his leadership with the other prisoners and everything. No, it's a terrific story. It's a terrific Superman story. Absolutely. Lewis Headache. So excited for Action Comics. It's been a while since a DC title made me geek out, kept me guessing, and try to find out more than hidden plot threads. Bravo. And then he has a follow-up and says, okay, I got to ask this. This has been driving me crazy for the past 2 days. In Action 1043, the last page, is the painting on the wall in Necropolis a reference to Doomsday Clock?
1043. I might have to pull it up. A painting on the wall.
Yeah, I got to look now too. I'll pull it up as well. We can spoil, obviously, because it's out.
That's right. It just came out.
So hang on one second. I got a digital copy that I could put up and share with everybody in just a second.
The last issue, the last page. If we're talking the main story,
yes,
I'm looking at these Thanagarian like war these like robotic things that Mongol has basically stolen from the United Planets is what I'm saying. Unless we're talking the backup story. That's probably what he means.
You think so? Okay, because here. Yeah.
Painting up. Oh, he's talking about the writing.
The stuff on the wall. I'll bring it up for everybody.
No, that's not actually.
It kind of looks like a clock.
I see what he means. Yes. That's interesting. He thought that. No, that's how all the writing is. If you the writing that you're seeing on the wall, that particular one is actually like a kind of a sketch that Will Conrad did. And then we kind of zoomed in on it. So that's not like that particular panel is not saying anything, but there are other panels. Like when you see the actual the writing on the Genesis fragment itself on Earth, that's real language that you can't decode it because there's no commonality with that in English, but it's if you had like a Dead Sea Scroll type thing, that actually does say a specific phrase. And there's a lot of other Genesis writing in the in the Warworld saga that is actually speaking, that this, speaking, it's like a sacred text. And when in the backup story in 1043, when Bilaash is talking about all these different stories on the walls and everything, when you're going around and looking at some of the things on the walls,
Yeah.
The stories he's talking about, a lot of that's been actually been written, and I've actually tried to make the language that you're seeing is all these little, it happens in circles like the face of a clock, but then there are also these little lines that connect circle to circle with a little satellite phrases that kind of make up the whole, like every one of those little rune trees that you're seeing is a sentence basically.
Okay. He did
um
say that it's the backup that he was referring to. He
yeah,
was,
no, I see it now.
yeah. Um, oh, here we go. Christopher Adams. Uh, Philip, you've given us a physical threat for Soups that is astounding. What would you consider to be his biggest existential threat? Ooh, good essay question.
His biggest existential threat. I mean, so in what we've seen so far, I would say that's Mongol as well. The fact that this new Mongol, at some point, he criticizes his father, his whole lineage, really, and says like all they valued is strength. And I'm not so small-minded as they are. And he has built the current Mongol who has established a cult of slavery on Warworld, in which they're not just servants, they're not just slaves, but they love their role. They've been brainwashed into completely embracing that. And to them, it's like this whole other way of thinking. It's not, when Superman showed up, it's not like they're like, Superman, save us. I mean, they are like, to them, Mongol is Superman. And by completely changing
Yes.
their whole mindset, like the context of all, like every bit of information they ever get in their day, he has just completely reprogrammed them. And this, again, that's a big part of why I wanted to tell the story. I want to talk about the dangers of hero worship and propaganda, and having a whole information system that that completely controls the people who take it in. So yeah, I think the system that Mongol has built on Warworld is one that legitimately scares me deeply when I see things like that happening in real life.
I agree with Robert, who says one thing I've loved so much about your run is you've not forgotten Clark Kent. It seems more writers these days would rather focus on Superman all the time. And he says Bendis outing him didn't help. But I liked as well that in Superman's inner monologue, he's like, my name's Clark Kent.
Yeah, thanks. That's been one really nice thing to come out of that run. I love that he can tell people my name's Clark. Is it never really made sense to me that he would call himself Superman, like I'm Superman. It's the word that literally means I'm more than you,
Yes.
And
Yes.
he sees himself as less than us. I mean, not that he thinks he's pathetic, but he thinks he knows that his powers are there to serve us.
Yeah. His ambition is to be one of us. Absolutely.
Yeah. His
Oh, I'm with you, man.
yeah. So it's a really cool thing that he can just tell people my name is Clark. And even when I hear people talk about like Kal-El and all that, it just I mean, yeah, I get that's his name, and he's like, Kara and whoever will call him Cal sometimes, and I get it, and it's for Kara, it makes sense. But the name he hears in his mind is Clark Kent, and that's another aspect of him that I just dearly love, is that he calls himself by his Kansas name, and I love that he can just tell it to people now for the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, I agree with you, man. And that was my concern as well when Brian decided that everyone was going to know that he's Clark Kent and stuff. And it's like, man, I don't know. Clark Kent's special and gives him an access to people that I always still feel like that they might be intimidated in speaking to Superman. And so it does. I think it is good that Superman still refers to himself as Clark.
Yeah.
Radium Theater Productions asks, and by the way, Midnighter and Mr. Miracle from Action Backups and Future State fit into your broader narrative. First of all, I just want to say, love seeing Midnighter on Warworld and doing what he's doing and stuff. But do you see this all as an alternate timeline or something fitting around your current run as far as Future State?
A lot of time is passing on Warworld, and things like the Mr. Miracle story and the Midnighter story especially to me, those can be like, we're not seeing every moment of Midnighter's time in the alleys and sewers of Warworld, and we try to show that too. I show like he's searching for Apollo. He's searching for various people who can help him get Apollo out, figure out how to take him out without blowing everything up. And during that time, there are other adventures happening too. So in my mind, the Midnighter story and potentially even the Mr. Miracle story as well are happening kind of in between the cracks because months are passing on Warworld, cool. And all these things are happening. We didn't have time to really get into. I mean, the Mr. Miracle thing happened not on my watch. Like I had nothing to do with that story, and I wasn't sure what's like. Okay, do I have to write him in there now? Because we've already got so many goddamn characters. The Authority is a big team.
Yeah.
If Grant was never involved and I was writing my own team, I probably would have left like one of those people out, one or two out, because it's a big team. And we're trying to give everyone some time.
Sure.
On Warworld. Of course, some of them have been, prisoners still, but we're trying to give everyone their due and still keep it a Superman book. So I don't know. It's I've been trying to do my best by everyone, but there wasn't really space to give Mr. Miracle justice in the pages. But yeah, in my headcanon, Mr. Miracle is having adventures there too from time to like he's showing up and leaving, and there's other stuff happening in between the cracks because like so much time is passing from the beginning to the end of that story. I'm not going to forget about Enchantress. I see you in there, Caesar.
There you go. That's hilarious. Absolutely.
One more issue, hang in there.
I like what Wes Greer says too. He loves that Clark is keeping a journal as well. It not only exemplifies his love of writing, it's very humanizing for the character as well to express himself in journaling like many of us do. Absolutely, man. No question.
Thanks. I just love Clark's voice so much, and it helps me so much like in my own life. Like just having Superman's voice is one I wanted to share. I mean, when I was getting ready to do this gig, I read a lot of like Pulitzer Prize, like what kind of journalism is winning Pulitzers and like who's doing the great work, and like try to find examples of Pulitzer Prize winning work that is inspiring and like meaningful, like changing the world for the better. And just took a lot of that stuff in and tried to imagine Clark Kent writing one of those pieces and what kind of stuff would Clark write about. And it made sense to me that while Lois is writing like actual literal news, Clark is writing a piece about a homeless man who died and how much he loved him and what high esteem he holds humanity through the eyes of this homeless man who died. So yeah, and that I'm trying to capture that same kind of thing while he's on Warworld too, just talking about chronicling his experience on Warworld, but also seeing his love of all life and of the people around him, while he's there, like fighting in the mud.
And you're still finding glimpses of his past to tell stories about him as a boy as well. And I think that's great. And I love that period in the flashback where Martha, am I spoiling? Isn't it? That's already out, isn't it? The where Martha was sick when Clark was a kid and he was getting bullied and stuff.
No, that's in the annual.
Oh shit.
It's fine.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry, buddy. My apologies. It's
been
it's a great story. Everybody gonna love it. I'm sorry.
You're gonna love it. I should add that issue was co-written by Cy Springer. The annual is double size, and it's on. It's already been announced. Like the books are like it's on previews and all that. So it comes out next week, I believe.
Yes.
And yeah, Cy and Ian Churchill did this really cool Clark story, and I did just like a Warworld thing with his.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now I understand it better. And Jesus, I'm sorry, Philip. I apologize.
Dude, don't worry about it. That's one of the many benefits of watching World Balloon.
There you go. Well, there you go, everybody. So yeah, you got a little taste there. All right, Magic K wants to know how you got the Dark Crisis Green Lantern tie-in project, and what can you tell us about your approach for that project?
I mean, they asked me to do it. I stay busy, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do it, but they asked me like, "Hey, would you want to do?" I mean, Josh thought of me for the specific tie-in for this Green Lantern issue following Death of the Justice League, and I have had big plans, like big. Like ambitions for Green Lantern stuff for a long time, like in a way that I don't know if they'll let me do it. But this is an alternate reality story, like I don't want to. Yeah, so they let me do it, and another challenge was that growing up, my Green Lantern was always Hal Jordan, and
Sure.
I thought he was awesome. I still think that I love that character. And I just don't know John as well. I mostly got to know John through the animated show afterwards. And I mean, I had a couple of comics back in the day when excuse me, when Hal was kind of like off the reservation. They they brought out John, and those very early issues of John I really like. But it's a long time ago, and I feel like I know John very well. And so I did a lot of reading about John. Like I wanted to see stories that are not just some of these stories depict him as just like the ex-Marine,
Sure.
and I feel like that's kind of a one-note approach. And I wanted to know more about. I remember him as being an architect, and I guess I really want that combination in there. I want to see John as a brilliant architect who is also a great leader of soldiers and all that. But I talked to let's see, Jeff Thorne, who
Sure.
deeply loves John Stewart and really understands him in a way I didn't feel like I did. And we talked at great length about John. And it gave me a new appreciation for the character, and I started reading other stuff. And yeah, I learned a lot about the character, and I love him. And like in writing this story, he's become one of my favorite DC characters. I really like John Stewart. And I wanted to, there's a passing reference someplace to a sister that just for a second, and you don't ever hear about her again. You find out about his mom's civil rights work was very important to him, I think. There are little hints about his family and his past that I would love to see fleshed out more. So we got to do some of that in that book. But yeah,
That's
they reached
cool.
out for it.
I like what David says here too. He says the most interesting aspect of John Stewart to me is how the rings only create things temporarily, but John uses to make lasting change. He terraformed 3 planets in the '80s, and then of course Mosaic, and absolutely,
Yeah.
great story. And then Max says he has a question about the tie-in as well. What in your mind separates John? And you've already listed some of these things from the other lanterns, and also you say too that you are interested in maybe writing him more or other GL stories.
Yeah, dude, I totally am. I'm very interested in writing more Green Lantern in theory. I need to find the bandwidth to do that. Kind of got 2 careers going, and I have to navigate that like every single day. But yeah, I would love to do more Green Lantern. What separates John from the others? We have talked about that a little bit. I thought Hal was always a really fascinating choice for Green Lantern, in part because he seemed like this off the cuff choice. Like he finds the alien is like, it's you now. And he's this, Hal's this super ballsy, not afraid of anything fighter pilot. And it made him this really awesome choice because he's just not afraid of anything. But John, though, is a different kind of choice because Hal's also kind of reckless, right? Like
Yes.
Hal is not. It's not like he's never made mistakes. I mean, obviously we all make mistakes, but he's just kind of like more of like a dark horse kind of Green Lantern, whereas John was the obvious choice. Like he's a leader of soldiers, a natural born leader, brilliant architect. So he's not just good with the ring because of his architect's mind, but he's also good in the core. He's also like the perfect to be like this, DC universe version of the Jedi kind of, that I think that really just makes a ton of sense. And when we were designing, also, I kind of want to see John, who doesn't just, so he's got the ring on, and these guys all make their uniform appears, right?
Right.
I kind of want to see him not just create his clothes. I want to see him create himself as a construct, like this new John appears. Like in this shoot, I shouldn't spoil some of the details in that book, but then when we're talking about the design, I wanted to see more of like a Spartan general. I wanted to see like the helmet. I want to see like
Wow.
a spear, like the Spartan cape. Like he's this like a super soldier with
Yeah.
unbelievable Jedi superpowers who can make anything with his mind, like a Jedi without any limitations,
Interesting. No,
Um,
that's why, again, I don't want you to spoil your story, but no, I think that gives us kind of an interesting thing to look forward to in
yeah,
Dark
thanks.
Crisis. Absolutely. And Robert says his friend Nerdette had Jeffrey Thorne, said he talked to someone about handling John who really understood what he did with them, and he guesses that was you that he was talking about.
Yeah, I really admire the work that Jeff did with John. I thought he did a really great job, and it was a pleasure and honor to talk to him about it. And I hope we did right by Jeff and by John Stewart in that book. So yeah, I really like John and Hal too. And I mean,
Sure.
all of them are lanterns for different reasons. I think that's pretty dope. That they can all have like they can all be so different from each other and all deserve the ring
100%.
so richly. Same thing with
Absolutely.
Kyle Rayner. I love that he's an artist and like he's just this unparalleled imagination. And I don't think that he's like the leader of soul, like the natural leader that John is, but he's just like pure creation. I love that. I love Kyle.
And Caesar's asking if Guy will have a role in your tie-in.
No.
Okay. All right.
I don't like.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine. Hey, Guy's busy in Human Target. That's totally fine, man.
yeah, exactly. Guy's busy.
We're getting Guy in Tom's Human Target story. That's all right. Guy's very busy, man. He's not very happy that Ice is
Yeah,
spending time with the Human Target. I understand.
I'll say that I think Guy is an interesting choice, kind of like Hal, but more extreme. Actually, I put Jason Todd in there that's not a spoiler because it's on the covers, or one of the covers. Jason Todd is a lantern in this book.
Wow.
And first of all,
Interesting.
I just think Jason Todd is just dope as hell.
Interesting.
I
Please.
love Jason Todd. I love the whole concept of the broken the broken Robin, of
Sure.
how he's so aggressive and tough and just not afraid of anything. And he's not like everyone kind of thinks of him. Somebody online says something about they think he'd be a better Red Lantern. And I get that. That's cool. But it's to me, he's not like, I'm gonna kill you. It's more like I dare you. Like if we
Sure.
have Jason Todd without the influence of Batman, like let's say he never jacked the Batmobile, he never like ran into Batman the way that he did. Let's say he still had. Imagine a Jason Todd that has been influenced mostly by the Al Ghuls and later by the Corps. The way that a lot of like kids who have a rough life kind of get saved by like a boxing gym or by just exposure to police or whatever, and kind of enveloped in that whole new culture. Imagine Jason Todd like that, where he's rescued first kind of by the Al Ghuls or the Court of Owls or somebody and becomes this new thing. And then later, the same sort of thing, but with the lanterns. And that's the version of Jason Todd that we're going to see in the John Stewart book.
That's excellent.
Almost like an anti-hero or bad guy in like Afro Samurai or something, like that super stylized, badass dude carrying like a gun blade kind of thing, like almost like a Final Fantasy kind of like super badass, edgy character who's not evil or cruel or even all that ragey. Is just like, I dare you. Like, I'm not afraid of shit, and I can do anything with the power of my mind. And like, that's a version of Jason Todd I thought would be really cool to see, however briefly. So
That's terrific, man. No, I always liked how when Judd Winnick brought Jason back and as the Red Hood and everything, and the few
yeah,
times that he and Batman would work together, it's like, no, Jason is very capable. Jason, from a pure performance standpoint, is a great Robin and was a great Robin,
yeah,
and I like that, and that he took his lessons quite well and is willing to step over the line in ways that obviously Batman isn't. And
yeah.
again, that's interesting. So
Yeah,
I'm for it. I'm for it.
it's when I was reading comics back in the day, I remember his origin was, maybe I'm making this up, but wasn't his origin pretty much identical to Dick Grayson? Like he was another circus
Initially,
kid
it was
like another
yes.
like circus kid, parents died, blah blah blah.
When Marv, I think, initially created him, yes, Marv
Uh-huh.
Wolfman, I believe, was the guy that created Jason, and then Max Collins came in and kind of rebooted Jason, and Jason was a juvenile delinquent, and he was trying to steal the tires off the Batmobile, which is great. And yeah, and it's so funny, man. I was talking about this with Kelly, I think Kelly Jones this weekend. Just I love all the various Batman writers' attitudes towards Jason, and at Terrificon, the Connecticut show that I do every year, coming up at the end of July. Everybody, Terrificon, a proud sponsor of Word Balloon. We had Denny O'Neil, Mike Barr, Peter Tomasi, Jim Starlin, and Tim Seeley, and they were talking about Batman and they were talking about Robin. And man, Denny, man, was so great. He's like, I hate Robin. He's like, it makes no sense. He goes, good Lord. He goes, I'd always put him in an alley, or have the villain shoot at Robin because he's in that red and green. It's ridiculous. And Starlin Starlin's like, well, I killed Jason, so obviously I don't like him either. And Mike Barr's like, yeah, I never liked him either. And all I could think of was I saw this little 6-year-old kid sitting in the audience in a Robin outfit, and I could just hear his inner monologue. But I like Robin,
Right.
But it is. I appreciate all the Robins and their differences, and certainly Jason, one of them. So yes, Robert is correct. Starling killed him. You're damn right. That was really interesting to learn too. That it was like the editorial kind of is like, hey, do you mind killing him? He's like, no, not at all. But then when it came time, like I guess the executives are like, you killed Robin? What are you, nuts? We got Robin birthday cakes and all this merchandise that we sell. And it's like, no. It's not that we killed Robin. We killed a Robin, And actually, maybe I'm confusing Robin's past with Tim Drake's, because maybe was it Tim? Well, I don't know. But regardless, I do like the fact that he was juvenile delinquent Jason Todd.
Yeah, I really like the contrast between him and Dick Grayson and all the others. Like again, like it's
yeah.
I think that character is great. So especially now, I loved him all the more after he came back, like you said.
We may as well. I know you've made the announcement. Christian wants to know anything you could tease without spoiling about your new 007 series. Also, that new logo inspired by John Dee's 007 signature in letters to Queen Elizabeth is. He's wondering if that's where that came from for the logo.
I didn't have anything to do with the logo.
Sure.
I apologize. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that came from. I do like how it turned out. I've seen some covers that I can't show you guys yet that are super dope. But yeah, I would love to talk about some 007.
So what can you say?
Well, so I've been a fan for a long time, and I had the opportunity to write 007 now for Dynamite Comics, and I jumped at the chance. I'm working with a new artist named Marco Finnegan, who is terrific. Had never seen his work before. He's really great. I'm a huge fan of Ed Brubaker's writing.
Sure.
And of John le Carré books and things that are not necessarily Bond related or even adjacent, but that I think would suit a Bond book really well. So when I got asked to do this, that my mind kind of turned to Brubaker's Velvet and to the Smiley novels, John le Carré, and the Brubaker's new like Loveless books and The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. And I guess without really thinking about it, I think I just feel like the spycraft element has been missing from a lot of the Bond stuff. And
sure.
Without removing any of the staple things that make people love Bond, I wanted to introduce that into it. Like there's, people expect the action and the gadgets,
sure,
and the tux and the drinks and the Bond girl, and there's elements to it, like the theatrical aspect to the villains and everything. And I don't want to lose any of that, but I also wanted to introduce some spycraft, because I mean, it's if you consider him an actual like spy, he's the worst, right? Because
you know what you mean. He's world famous.
But yeah, he goes in, gives everyone his real name, drinks at the bar with the bad guy's girlfriend, usually takes her home. It's like he's just he does nothing but attract attention to himself.
I Die Another Day when it starts, and after he busts out of the Korean prison, and he's in Hong Kong. He's like, "Yeah, Mr. Bond, how are you? Great to see you." Whatever.
Exactly
And
right.
I understand his cover is he's like Art Vandelay in Seinfeld. He's an importer exporter. That's the cover company that he supposedly works with. But no, I'm so with you in terms of it is that oxymoron of, oh, he's a world famous secret agent. It's like, yeah, that's not right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, mostly people play up the secret agent, or not even secret agent, like special agent. Like he can essentially an assassin that can do all kinds of cool tricks, but he's not usually a spy, really. And I wanted to introduce some elements of spycraft into it and make more of like a moody, kind of cool, creepy, not creepy, that's the wrong word, kind of a cool, stylish, more kind of, in the shadows kind of a Bond story that we don't
Sure.
usually see. And I'm really excited. We also have kind of a new take on the Bond girl thing that I think will be better suited to modern audiences. And the thing about the Bond movies and books that I feel pretty strongly about is that they're kind of like these time capsules. They're all very much of their time. They're not necessarily timeless. They're all very much
Agreed.
of their time and place.
Absolutely.
And
You're right,
sometimes
man.
there are aspects of the character, of the original character, that I think would be hard to translate into a modern story. And the story is,
Completely agree.
even though like we're doing like an adaptation of the original Bond character, we can't do it exactly like it was,
No,
So
no, but
there's
that's
elements
okay
that,
though. Go on.
yeah, totally, yeah. And there's a character in this one. Our Bond girl in this one is another 00 named Gwendolyn Gann, who was like a huge influence on Bond herself, and she's super badass. And I'm really excited for how the kind of format in which we tell the story, the way that we kind of lay out the Bond Gwen relationship is really fun. And yeah, dude, I'm really excited for it, and I'm excited people to see Marco's work. And the covers are insane, and
The covers are, yeah. What the cover that that I saw just blew me away, and I'm like, oh, this is a good Bond artist, and I've started following him, and he was very sweet about that. He was excited that we were talking, and I'm like, hey, man, really looking forward to seeing your work because yeah, I haven't seen his work prior to this, so
yeah,
it's gonna be great.
the editor on the book, Nate, he sent me some art that Marco had done. I was like, here's the guy I'm thinking of, or maybe he just gave me the name and I looked him up actually. And the stuff that I found looked great, but it was not the style I envisioned for this. And I was like, yeah, this is really good. I'm not like, this isn't what I thought of for the book, but this is cool. But then I looked up another bit of art from another story that he had done, and it was completely different. And then another one, I mean, as in like looked like it was by a different artist.
Wow, that's great.
And then another one, and it was different again. And I was so impressed by his versatility as an artist, how he can just do anything. And for this, he's kind of adapting this sort of almost like a Sean Phillipsy, like David Aja kind of thing. How do you say David's name? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it's Aja. I
Is it
think
Aja?
that's
Okay.
right.
Just something I think suits Bond really well, and the colors. God, yeah, it looks great. I'm really stoked.
That's awesome, man. How getting the story vetted by Eon? How did that go? Did they have to look it over, or did Nate?
Yeah. No, I'm getting notes from I believe from the Flemings. I'm not sure
Or the
how.
Fleming estate? Sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly who's. As I understand, it's coming from the Flemings. I'm not in contact
I
with them
believe
directly.
you're correct.
It's all going through editorial.
Sure.
Yeah, they've been very receptive. Actually, they really
Cool.
dig it. I mean, there's the
Cool.
occasional note where they're like, "What do you think about this?" And we'll kind of beat something back and forth because we're translating a character that was originally written so long ago.
Yes.
We're trying to stay like true to it, but also in a 21st century context that, in a way, kind of changes everything. So
again, this is the same kind of conversation I've had with guys like Rom V and other creators that are taking classic tropes where, frankly, yeah, I mean, there was a different time and there were things that were allowed that, yeah, I think would shock and upset some current people. But you don't have to throw the whole concept away. You just need to tweak it a little bit and maintain the characterizations that do still work modernly. Have you watched on Apple TV Slow Horses? Are you aware of this show?
No, I don't know about it.
It's great, and mentioning Le Carre and the Smiley novels and everything. And also Gary Oldman is in it,
Oh, nice. That's cool.
kind of playing a parody of his George Smiley character. it's a division of MI5 or 6, I'm not sure which, where all the knucklehead spies who have screwed up are sent to this house because they know too much. So they're still working for intelligence, but they have to do all the shit jobs, basically. Go through evidence and other things that like will keep them out of harm's way. And there's a hotshot agent that screwed up on a mission that temporarily gets demoted to this house, and but it's he doesn't know when his time will be up. While he's there, he uncovers what he believes is a conspiracy, and the only people that are there to help him are these knucklehead agents. And it's kind of got that office British office kind of tone of office politics and inept people, alongside a really good spy story. And Gary Oldman's great because he's the spy master and is disheveled and looks like hell, never puts a comb through his hair, has holes in his socks, and glad to have his feet on the desk and let you see the holes in his socks. But he's the spy master basically that's in charge of these knuckleheads. It's great because it's subtly a good comedy, but it's also a really good spy story.
It sounds really fun. I'll check it out. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I got to find the time. I'll probably get to it in like 2025, but I'd love to see it.
I understand. Yeah, Comic Boom, really excited to see your thing. Oh, here's a question from Robert. Question for both of us. Do we think after No Time to Die they should reboot the Bond franchise again, or should they make the codename Theory canon in Craig's timeline and continue? No, I say reboot.
I would agree.
It was the Craig time real fast. My great story. I get what they were doing, and that's fine because you really got the bookends of Casino Royale and No Time to Die. But I was like, you're killing Bond, all right, whatever. But again, it's that version of Bond, so no. Let's
exactly. Honestly, I think the Craig movies are clearly the best ones. Now,
interesting.
Yeah, and I understand, John, that you grew up on the other ones, and
I love Daniel as Bond. I think he was great, and I truly Casino Royale is up there as one of the great Bond movies, no question.
Oh my God, yeah.
But I just think the writing trouble they had during Quantum of Solace kind of took off a notch.
Yeah, they're not all great.
No, please continue.
Yeah, Casino Royale, best Bond movie in my opinion. I thought that Skyfall was also really great.
I like Skyfall as well.
I thought Spectre was a tragedy.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, man. Yeah, and it's like God. I mean, because Christoph Waltz should have been an amazing Blofeld.
I know, and he was good.
Blew it.
He was good, but there's only so much you can do. And but then the last one I thought was a pretty good bookend too. The cool thing that I like, if you let the shortcomings go, I thought that what they did with the Craig thing, where you see him young, like starting out, like the remake of the original novel, right? In a way that I thought was amazing. Like if you've read that original book, the things that they added and changed, I thought was all just like purely benefit. I thought it all did a great job at developing the characters a lot more, made it super exciting, just perfect Bond movie, perfect adaptation of the original Bond book.
Yes.
And you see him, like before he has his little shake and stirred thing, like it's all the very beginning.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and also Eva Green. Oh my God. Yeah. I fell in love with Eva Green in that movie. It's like, oh man,
Yeah, I know. She's great. She's great. And I love it. And if you've read that original book, when I got to the end, I mean, I'd read the original forever ago and I didn't really remember much about it. And then after I'd seen the movie, as movies do for me, the movie kind of like swept a lot of that away, like a lot of the book out of my memory.
Okay.
And I went back and I read it again more recently when I got this gig. And at the end, should I spoil? I mean, the book is like 70
years old. Yeah.
Years old, yeah, like whatever. So, but so the stuff with Eva Green basically being a traitor is all in there.
Yes.
And she writes this letter of devotion to him. And as the book ends, he's like super shitty about it. He's like, Clay doesn't care about her. And he's like, nah.
Yeah. Well, again, he was
a bitch, and he's so mad and like annoyed with the whole thing, and doesn't care about her at all. And that's like the end.
He has contempt for women in the Fleming books. He really does. And it's only exacerbated by that attitude that even was kind of prevalent in some of the Connery movies as well.
Sure. I mean,
I mean,
again, like it's the
you know,
time capsule, right? For what it was in
absolutely,
its
man.
for what it was in its day, that's cool. But
Yes,
it's
and that's why I Connery is still my Bond, but again, warts and all, and yeah, he was shitty, but that kind of to me explained his character as well. And it's not a good trait, certainly not a heroic trait, but it's like, yeah, it's kind of part of it, man. So,
yeah, totally. It's part of it. But I love the way. So what they did with these new movies, with the Craig movies, is
yes.
they kind of did for Bond what All Star Superman does for Superman, in that it takes like a mini series and kind of blows out his entire career into this limited run. Like the way that All Star, encapsulated, New God
Super,
stuff, and cast like Doomsday is in there for a hot second, and all the Luther stuff's all the way through there, and it
yeah, yeah.
boils everything down to like a miniseries that kind of encapsulates everything that Superman is. And they
True.
kind of collected like 007's career from beginning to end. We see him super young, kind of see him in his heyday. We explore his character in a way we haven't really done before, with his like childhood and stuff, which was very unusual. And then we see it all kind of wrap up at the end with his own, like him coming full circle and finding love again and all that, and then he's dead.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think it's not the same as the other ones, because it is not timeless. It's like they made a complete series, and when Craig was done, the series was done, and now I think they have to reboot for sure.
That's cool. By the way, JD, who is a South American, says it's David Aja.
Okay, so
So we know.
I didn't know if David was Hispanic. I've never met him.
A couple questions from Magic K regarding Superman. He wants to know: will you give Superman his secret identity in future state issues? Since Taylor gave Tom Taylor, a secret identity in his Superman run.
I can't say.
There you go.
That's
Okay.
a big fat spoiler, so I shouldn't talk about the secret identity thing. I know it's on people's minds. It's still like much like John's age, it's something that comes up, pretty often online. So I shouldn't talk about it.
I
Apologies.
understood. And then Magic K wants to know if you have any interest in making a newsletter, something like Substack.
Oh my God, no.
I,
I mean, I have no interest in that at all. I mean, I do. If time was not an issue, then yes.
you got a lot
But
of plate spinning right now, Philip. I understand, man. I
dude,
totally understand.
I don't know how the fuck Tynan does it. With his stuff, because I mean, he's writing a lot of books, and he's still got his Substack coming out. Yeah, not really. I don't have the bandwidth. I'd just be signing up for failure and for disappointing my readers. So in theory, yes. I mean, sometimes I really like talking with fans on Twitter or wherever. I mean, I much prefer it in person. But whenever I get a chance, sometimes it is brought on by a hot take or a shitty comment or whatever. But for whatever reason, like sometimes I get a chance to talk about what Superman means to me, or what he means to others, or some story about how he inspired someone or whatever. And I love getting a chance to talk, like give fans my thoughts on things and all that. But Substack is a commitment that I would want to honor every week that I just don't have the bandwidth to do, sadly. So I would just fall on my face.
It sounds like Casino Royale was your favorite Bond book, but if I'm not right about that, Radium Theater wants to know what was your favorite Bond book and Bond movie. Are those
And
answers different?
I'm just going to say it. So I hope the Flemings don't light me up for this, but actually my favorite Bond book was not written by Fleming.
Go for it. Tell me.
It was written by Anthony Horowitz, and it was the
Interesting.
names all kind of run together to me. They're all kind of Bondy,
How long ago was the Horowitz book?
Forever and a Day.
Okay, and how long ago was that?
I think it's pretty recent.
Because I used to read the Raymond Benson Bond books from the '80s.
I could be wrong, but I think he's the current-ish writer.
Okay, because I don't know who the current writer is, but Raymond Benson for a long time was one of the modern Bond writers and stuff, and I always thought his stuff was really good.
I know there have been a lot.
Yes.
The old ones are just so of their time that they kind of don't speak to me. And even, I mean, the Horowitz one too is also, it's not meant to be like happening now, but Yeah, I don't know. Like it's the Forever and a Day is actually it's pretty cool because it's the story of how Bond became 007. And I think it's very well done. There are references in the original novels of what like just kind of vaguely what happened. Oh, look at that! Someone says there's a new book just came out this week.
Yeah, Christian says that absolutely. How
That's not the
about
one I'm
Bond?
talking about.
And is Casino Royale your favorite Bond movie?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Mine is from Russia with Love.
that's a good
Uh,
one, actually.
yeah, I really I just think it was. I mean, that had like the most pressure on it to be good coming off of Doctor No,
Yeah,
and I love it, and I really love Robert Shaw as Red, and I forget his last name, Red Grant.
I honestly I forget to. I haven't seen
Yeah,
that
but
one. I
oh man,
a
and
lot of my
Lottie Linya as the lady with the dagger in her foot and everything, Inspector Number Three. She's great, and
yeah
oh
you're
man, that ending is so like out of nowhere. It's like, whoa, wait, we're not done. Hold
no,
on.
you're schooling me. I haven't seen these in a while, but I remember I do remember liking that one a lot. I remember liking the theme song a lot. And
Yes,
I kind of liked when we got to see Sean Connery as the older Bond again later in life. I thought that was pretty cool too.
dude, I'm telling you, I think Never Say Never Again. It's still a little cheesier. Well, who are we kidding? Roger Moore. And I love Roger. I love all the Bonds. I'm very Father Flanagan about Bond. There's no such thing as a bad James Bond, including Lazenby. I think Lazenby, given his level of acting ability, he's in the best story, I think, on Her Majesty's Secret Service. But regarding Never Say Never Again, I agree with you. And I also like Diamonds Are Forever, uh, which was closer to his prime, but clearly he had aged since he only lived twice.
Yeah,
And no, I really like Never Say Never Again, just in terms of the way Connery plays him. And when I saw it when I was a kid, I'm like, oh man, I don't know, he looks kind of old or whatever. And now it's like, hey man, it's still James Bond. It was the right toupee, and it's
yeah.
just like, no, that's how James Bond looks, man. That's
Now
terrific.
there's a thing about like a back in the saddle kind of story that really speaks to me that I really love. Um, and which is also why part of why I like Skyfall so much.
Understood.
I thought
Yes.
that was one of the cooler aspects of that one, and I love how um, I love the way Craig plays him, man. I just he's kind of like this guy who just he kind of likes to fight, you know. Like
Yes.
there's this physicality kind of bruiser aspect to him that yeah he's still stylish, just got the fancy watch, and you know he's into women and
Sure.
likes his drinks a certain way, but he's also just like okay, a great example is in that movie when he's been missing for a while and he comes back because he just does whatever he wants all the time. He does what he feels like. He decides to come back because MI6 is in trouble and his loyalty is still to England in the end, he finds. Comes back and he's doing his old tests and he's not doing so great. He's obviously feeling the wound
Yeah, it's
that
Skyfall. Yeah.
that took him out of commission in Skyfall, yeah. And he he's on the range and he's firing at the silhouettes and not doing super great. And he kind of looks at the guys watching him like, and he gets pissed and he pulls out a gun and starts walking towards him real fast, like bam, 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 bam. Like you can see that the anger is like that kind of like F you, you're still dead kind of thing in his face.
Yes.
And like looking at the painting and Q comes up and Q's like this annoying young hacker nerd. And he's like, here's all the subtlety and nuance that I see in this painting. And he's like, it's a bloody big ship. And I I don't know. I just love his physicality, his roughness, his like this
Yeah.
world weariness that starts to come out in him. I love that Bond, and even though that's a little different than the old take, um, that those elements of world weariness versus the patriotism that first got him in the chair in the first place is a theme that kind of plays out in the series that we're doing next. Like I want to see
Exciting.
him. We're not seeing like old Bond or anything, but we're seeing a guy who has seen a lot of stuff and done a lot of stuff, and something bad happens, and he's kind of like he's kind of questioning his allegiances. Like, do I want to do this? Like, is this really what I signed up for? Is this what I thought it was? Am I who I wanted to be? And then something happens, and you kind of you see him asking the hard questions of himself, and seeing if this is something he still wants to do. I'm really excited for the book.
How many issues is it going to be?
Um, there's
Before
actually
we
some
begin to
debate
print?
about it. I shouldn't say it.
Okay. Okay.
It's probably going to be a limited. I mean, if we're having an amazing time by the end of the limited, we might do another one. But for right now, it's looking like probably like a mini, I would say. Not super mini. It'll be at least 6, I would say.
Okay, that's cool. No, that's great, man. I don't think the Fleming estate would ever allow it, but for years, maybe we do. Someone would have to do. And here's a free idea, everybody. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to suggest this, but because it sounded like Roger Moore while he was still around, and Sean, that that they were leaning into this. I really would have loved to have seen a crossover of the Bond actors and finally let them say, because as we said earlier, the name's a code name, or let's use it that way, that various agents have become James Bond to keep the enemy confused in terms of, well, we know the name, but we don't know anything about this guy, and have whoever the current Bond was detained or taken captured or whatever, and that the old Bonds have to come out of retirement to help him. And I would have loved to have seen that actually happen. And I think it would still make a great comic book. Like I said, the Flemings probably wouldn't allow it. And that's fine.
Yeah, I can say with some authority, they will not allow that.
Oh, there you go, man. Absolutely. So
it's a super cool idea. And I definitely like the idea of there being a reason to explain the different Bonds who have come out.
Yeah.
But I also hate, I mean, it's not Doctor Who though. And I kind of don't want, I kind of don't want, I want there to be one Bond. I want to be the same guy,
I understand. And there's a real world kind of thing about Bond that, you don't want it. Christ, that's why they went from Moonraker to For Your Eyes Only, because even Albert Broccoli was saying, hey, we're getting into comic book, stuff with Moonraker. We got to bring it back to earth and everything, and keep Bond real. And that's why they did For Your Eyes Only back then. So I understand. No, I totally understand. Hilarious. Yeah, Christian says maybe he's a Time Lord. Yeah. No, I understand. I get it. It's all right. Don wanted to know when the first issue of your 007 is coming out.
They just announced it. I want to say it's August, I believe.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
There was one book that got announced that I think that there was then we haven't talked about Alien yet, and we probably should talk about that too.
Yes. I want to get to a couple of questions that have been holding.
I think the one that got, I'm not sure what happened, but they announced, I think September 7th is actually the first Alien issue. So yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, awesome.
I think I'm pretty sure Bond comes out in August.
Well, you're gonna have a busy summer, man, with what you got planned for action and
for sure.
Bond and Alien and everything. All right, we'll get to Alien in a second, but I do want to. These people have been waiting for some questions.
Okay.
Deviant Prod wants to ask, what is your favorite Superman inspirational speech? Mine is that message, and this is a Silver Age thing, and it's really not a speech, but when he thought he was dying, he wrote a message on the moon, like that you could see through a telescope, and basically it was like, be good to everybody, and that way every man could be a Superman. And he signed it Superman Clark Kent. And then when he wasn't dying, he took off the Clark Kent part and everything, with his heat vision. So yeah, that's always been like my favorite little short aphorism from Superman.
Man, inspirational speech. This isn't exactly what they mean, but the inscription in the front of All-Star was, we're defined not by the things we say, but the things we do. Let me see if I have that book up here.
Man, as you're looking, yeah, that Grant story is such a great story. And man, and the movie adaptation, the animation adaptation.
It's not. I think I left it down by my bedside. I think, but I think it's not our words, but our actions that define us, or something like that.
I like it.
And I'm sorry I can't give you the exact words, but and there's a big kind of zoom in on one of Frank Quietly's images of Superman's faces. But man, is it good. And I just love that moment. And I mean, selfishly, the one that means the most to me was the experience of writing one as a letter to my own kid. Is that in the Superman issues?
Yes. Before he
leading up,
goes off. Yeah.
yeah, leading up to, like, it's a literal letter from Superman to John before he leaves, or that John reads after Superman has left Earth. And that was coming out, I believe that came out as the first issues of World Rising were also coming out. This is just a story about an adventure that Clark and John had together on another planet, and Superman is telling that story to remind John that he's awesome. And so I'm not saying like my own words inspire me so much. I mean, the act of getting to write it, like having the opportunity to write a story to my own son, from the perspective of, like, ostensibly from the perspective of Clark Kent, was really meaningful to me, and it's just an opportunity that I will always treasure.
That's
And
terrific, man.
I've read
Yeah.
that comic series to my own kid. Like, we read, no matter how busy I get, no matter what's going on, I read to my kid before bed every night, no matter fucking what.
How old is your son now?
He's 8.
Okay, great. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that picture. I almost used it again for the lobby card for this conversation, but I love that picture of you and your son and you wearing your Superman shirt and everything.
Yeah. We
That's
took that
terrific.
picture. We took that picture before I got the job. He was just that was actually at the very beginning of COVID, and we were just playing Superman. And I had my my Kingdom Come shirt, and he had his regular one in his cape that he plays with. And we just took a picture together. And then I posted it later after I got the job to write the series. So yeah, that was a moment that meant a lot to me, having the opportunity to write it and read it to him. Be able to read that to him was just so, like, crying like a little girl. Not really. I was holding it in.
I'm hip. It's cool. No, man.
I
It's all
was. I
right.
was holding it in, but man, I just, he and I are so close, and
That's
getting
wonderful.
to share that stuff with him and knowing how into it he is, it's just so awesome, man. Whenever as he keeps getting older, I really miss the ages that we are growing out of, but all the new ones are awesome too.
That's excellent, man. No, I've had this similar conversation with Tom King and Bendis, so I can appreciate that. It's great when your kids are into what you do and they're just really excited, as excited as you are about the stories. That's wonderful. Great
Yeah,
way to bond.
so okay, circling back to like Superman moments that inspire me though.
Yeah,
The moment where Superman walks into the bar in Kingdom Come and straightens out all the would-be superheroes and anti-heroes that are in the bar there. And part of that really makes it sing is the Alex Ross art too.
sure.
But yeah, the Wade's writing on that in that scene was so great.
I've enjoyed having the opportunity to have George Newbern and Susan Eisenberg
Mhm.
quote dialogue
Yeah,
in a table read from Kingdom Come. No, Mark gets Superman. He really
I
does.
know,
And
man. I hope Mark Wade. I hope you're listening. I really love that scene. I actually, I one of my very first conventions, Wade was there, and I went and talked to him. And I mean, not like, I don't think I even had aspirations to write comics at the time, but I told him, like, Kingdom Come was like my favorite book, and he was like, "Wow, take that, Shakespeare." And I was like,
that's Mark.
I was like, well, that's not what I mean. I guess I should have said I should have said my favorite comic.
My
But
favorite
at
Superman
that
comic,
moment,
even, sure.
I think I'd read it kind of recently when we were talking about that, and it hit me so hard. Like that opening moment where he's on the farm, supposedly, and Wonder Woman goes to get him out of retirement, and he's like, "You're spooking the
Yes.
horses." Like, you see him on the roof, and he's like, and again, the art was just kicking my ass. I couldn't believe how good the art was, and Wade was just writing the hell out of it, and it was just this perfect story. I just loved it. I was so inspired by that. So yeah, Wade, if you're listening, your shit is awesome. I love that book. I love what you're doing on World's Finest right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I love that moment in the bar really meant a lot to me. And I love that, like, I know he doesn't look exactly like Chris Reeve, but there are moments where it really comes through, and
Also, the way Alex draws Superman, you literally see the weight of the universe on his shoulders.
yeah,
And I always appreciate there's that kind of sense of humility in the way that Alex draws Superman. That he's a lot of times he's looking down because again,
yeah,
he's carrying the burden of not only our world but, like I said, the universe,
yeah.
and
There's
it
that
comes
super
through.
iconic moment where his, like, shoulders are so broad. I know Alex used that one, that dude to, like, model for Superman, and just the body carriage is just so on point.
I'm with you, man. Z Swimmer. Am I saying it right? I hope I am. Come on, there. Whoop. Yeah, could not find one to start. I want to say Philip has brought us into one of the most entertaining action runs, and he continues and says, and it keeps appearing that the mythology he creates gets deeper and deeper with each issue, with possible ramifications that must be fun to think of.
Yeah, thank you, man. Super kind of you to say. It's a huge honor and a privilege, and I'm not taking a bit of it for granted. There was a moment I just did Fan Expo in MegaCon Orlando.
Yeah.
And this gentleman came up to me. His name was Miguel, and he said that when he was very young, he had 2 open heart surgeries.
Wow.
And I mean, I don't know how near death he got, but apparently he was super duper weak and couldn't really do much. And when he was laying there with just the gear like basically hanging out of him, he imagined that Superman was inside of him, like making him strong.
Wow. Sure.
And that it helped him become capable again.
That's amazing.
And like I was having this debate about Superman the other day, and somebody said, somebody was like, dude, Superman's not real. And I'm like, I think I was saying, so I got really offended at the idea that Superman, somebody was like accused, like something about maybe in a nationalist or something. And I was like, it really matters to me how Superman is perceived. And they're like, dude, Superman's not real except for how he is written. So if he was ever written as a nationalist, then it's out there. And I'm like, no, he's not real. He is, I mean, I hear stories like that from Miguel, and it just reminds me that he's better than real. He is more than real. People like the whole concept of Superman is so universal that it deeply matters, in a way that I, as a real life human being, do not.
He represents a code of behavior and everything about it. Please, I'm sorry, Philip. I'm stepping.
No, that's it. He teaches us how to be human, how to be the best
exactly.
of us. And like there's a kid out there right now like Miguel who needs that story, who needs Superman desperately to remind him of what he can do to make him feel powerful and make him eventually become powerful. And I don't know, it's just such a huge responsibility to write that story, and it's a huge honor to get to do it.
I hear you, and I think you're killing it, and you get Superman. It's here. Stephen Green wants to know who your favorite live action Superman is or was.
I mean, it's got to be Christopher Reeve. I mean,
I'm with you.
I've said that on here before, and I know people, and there are people younger than me who, and I mean, not just younger than me, obviously, but people who have grown up with Henry Cavill in the way that I grew up with Christopher Reeve, and he means the same thing to them, and I think that's awesome.
I agree with you, and I mean, again, kind of like how I feel about James Bond. I've loved everyone who's played Superman. I'm so glad Brandon Routh got an opportunity on television to expand on what he gave us in the Bryan Singer movie.
I think he is incredible. I thought he did
a great Superman,
terrific job in Superman Returns, and he's doing. I see the same kind of responsibility on his shoulders when he plays the character. You can tell that he knows what he's doing and matters, and I love that, man. I think Brandon Routh. I love seeing him in that role.
But I got to say, Tyler Hoechlin is killing it on Superman and Lois. It's such a great story, and I'm so relieved that it is a Superman show. I mean, listen, it's the CW. There's going to be teenagers. I get that. That's fine, and I'm okay with that. And actually, they've handled the story. I was really worried about Jordan being kind of like emo, like John Kent, in terms of like, yeah, he's got the powers, but he's going to be pouty all the time and stuff. And it's like, no, he really, this season, they've really given him some interesting things to do. And also Jonathan, I think, has an interesting story. But ultimately, God, are you caught up? I don't want to spoil.
I'm sorry, man. I'm not caught up. Like I got a few episodes behind, and at some point I was just like, I need to just wait and binge it.
Well, again,
and that's where I'm at right now. I'm behind, and I'm going to binge it.
Is it at all, because again, you are telling such a different story. Is it at all fear of, I don't want what they're doing on TV to seep in my head?
No, it's not that at all. It's not that at all. I really do want, I want to be informed on what's happening in the show.
Sure.
It is very different, and I do like the Superman that I see in my head and write is very different than what Tyler's doing. But I think that Tyler one's great. I just yeah, I'm just not caught up. I'm just trying to catch. I'm just so many things I need to watch and do, and I'm just not caught up on any kind of TV. But
All right.
I do want to get caught up, and I've heard great things, and the stuff that I've seen I like very much.
It's only gotten better this season.
It's amazing that we have shows like, we have a Flash show where they talk about Speed Force. I just saw pictures today of a Blue Beetle movie.
Right.
Like it's crazy that we live in this world, and
you're right.
And there's Bizarro isn't. It's just awesome, man. It's awesome. It's just like leaning into what it is. I love that we have this stuff. I am super anxious to see the show, but I'm not caught up.
Understood. Jared wants to know any Justice League characters that you might work on in the future.
Oh, Justice Society.
Justice Society, excuse me.
I probably shouldn't tell you what's coming.
Well, just say yes. You can just leave it as yes or no if without spoiling. We don't need to know specifically who.
Probably not. There's a couple of there's some character rosters we're kind of fleshing out. It's possible, but I don't not I know of.
Okay.
There was one question I actually wanted to
please
address. I saw back in the thread somewhere. Let me look here. Robert's asking, people have theorized that you were introducing DC's version of the Infinity Stones in 1043. Are they reading too much into things? I do want to address that actually. So
sure.
I don't want to get way into the weeds here because I'm sure a lot of people have not read the issue. It just came out.
Right.
But there is a page in which we see like the things, the 7 things that the story is talking about are depicted looking like jewels, and that's not really what they are. So in retrospect, I saw like an article or something that said like Infinity Stones ? Or whatever, and I was like, actually no, but I can see how it would look like that based just on this page.
Sure.
The things that are being described and depicted on that page are much bigger and more like harder to kind of wrap your head around than just like a physical thing that you can just like hold and mess with. And it's the artist chose to depict them as gems in that moment, but that wasn't in the script, and that was just kind of. There's also like you can also kind of see Superman and this other guy kind of together. That was a lot of that was just very interpretive on the part of Will Conrad, but we're not going to see a moment where somebody's holding up 7 gems and cackling. That's not what's happening.
And building on that, Z Swimmer says it felt like that or a Dragon Ball type of scenario that could really expand the cosmic DC side of things. Well, I think in general your War World story is expanding the DC cosmic in really interesting ways.
Thank you. It's going to be a lot bigger than Dragon Ball stuff. As far as the thing about like the Dragon Balls are like gems and all that. It's like it just boils this crazy concept down to like a tiny thing, and makes it not small but just very easy to grasp. And the thing that we're fleshing out is just bigger and older and harder to really comprehend. Like I like the idea, like Grant Morrison and I were discussing this whole thing, and I had never exactly codified it with the sentence the way that they did, but they said something like, I love that idea that it takes 7 planets to make a god or something, 7 worlds to make up one god or something like that. And that's exactly it. Like I had never put that on paper, but yeah, they said it very much the way it is in my mind.
Fair enough. People are speculating on what the gems may represent, but I will allow them to speculate, and you don't have to confirm or deny. Again, that's why we get the story, man.
Well, it's on the page actually. I mean, it talks about so great was his will, so great was his wrath and his passion and his madness and all those things. And but again, it's bigger. It's not just like this is the will stone. This is the it's not at all the Infinity Gauntlet.
Will Thao take on a heroic identity?
I shouldn't spoil it.
Yeah, yeah. Don't spoil it. No, no, no.
Right.
But again, people are thinking, so that's good. That's fine. No, don't. You don't have to answer, man. It's all good.
Oh, okay, okay. Space Lord says the gems to me sound like the emotional spectrum, in my opinion. I could see why you'd say that. And yeah, in the context of what little we have seen so far, it does sound like that, but it's a different thing. It's bigger.
Uh, Treyway wants to know, will the latter parts of the run be more inclusive of the entire DCU, akin to the Sinestro Corps War, in which characters like Superboy Prime that weren't entirely connected to the mythos got a spotlight?
Um,
We'll see that again. I'll leave it up there.
yeah, yeah, kind of. It's different. Without spoiling it, I'll say yes.
Okay.
There are so many huge pieces of the DC universe that don't necessarily touch. They were written by different writers in different eras of continuity, and there are a lot of big opportunities to tie all that stuff together that I think that lends itself very naturally to tying in with another thing. Like when I was writing the stuff that came out today or yesterday, depending on where you live, it just, even if I had not been planning on tying it into the Kirby verse, it was just begging for it.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to tie the whole thing together while still making the world bigger. I also want it to all feel like a cohesive thing.
All right, one more question about Warworld, and then let's talk Alien. Was Warworld something you pitched to DC without them asking for that type of story, or did they want Clark off planet to give John some spotlight, and you came up with the Warworld story?
That is a very perceptive question. Good job there, Zach. I did not pitch them boiled down. Okay. If you were to boil down the concept of the Warworld saga into like less than a sentence, like just like Superman on Warworld or whatever, that was not something I pitched. My contribution was what we did. Like, take those 3 words, Superman on Warworld, and then I kind of turned that into what is now the Warworld saga. So I did not pitch them on. I didn't say, "Hey, let's do the Warworld saga." Somebody was like, "What do you think about this?" And I was like, "Well, if we did it," and then I, and then I fleshed out the pitch from there. Like, here's what we could do. So they kind of pitched me, sort of. And then that turned into, I mean, all the execution was mine, but the idea of Superman being away was something that got brought up. And then I figured out how to do it and how to make it, again, just bigger and older. At the time, I was the guy who had done The Last God for Black Label. And they were like, we got this guy who, who spends entirely too much time on world building. Let's get him to do our cosmic stuff. That's why I kind of went nuts with the idea of Superman on Warworld and just turned it into this gigantic thing in which Mongol became scary again. There was this moment in the Bendis run in which, I think it was after John came back and Superman realized he had lost all this time with him. He got super pissed and he went out and found Mongol and just beat him down.
Beat the shit out of him.
In like 2 seconds, just because he kind of needed it.
Yep.
And at the time I was like, damn, okay. So he just ran right through him. We should. So and then, for what came later with Mongol dying and his son replacing him and all that, I'm like, now we have this chance to kind of show how, like, take the next step and make Mongol truly threat. Like, let's make a Mongol to which that could never happen.
Yes. Yes. No, I get it, man. Absolutely.
And that moment totally illustrated what Bendis wanted to do at the moment. And like, it's just like how much he had lost, just the loss and rage and everything in Superman at that time. But Mongol's supposed to be like, like, if we want a Mongol who can stand on his own 2 feet and not just be like a lesser Thanos or lesser Darkseid,
right?
We need someone like super big and powerful with this like lineage of ancient creatures and all that. So anyway, blah blah blah.
No, I love that, and even before that moment with Bendis, that great annual that Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons did for The Man Who Had Everything and The Black Rose, and you finally see Superman attack Mongol with the filter off, and it's just burn, and he shoots his heat vision at his chest, and it's like, No, Superman holds back because he's Superman. He's a good guy. But man, like again, it was like unfiltered Superman against Mongol, original Mongol. It's like no, Superman can take him and without even blinking. So, all right, I'll let one more question, and because I really do want you to talk about Alien, and I don't want us to not talk about it. How would you spin the idea of Superman Red Blue that Grant Morrison initially pitched for Superman and the Authority? They mentioned that in Superman Annotated, and I find that interesting.
How would I spin the idea of Superman Red Blue? So this is not like the electric Superman that we had back in the day. This was an idea that Grant floated of like a Superman. They talked about like a libertarian Superman and like the communist Superman from Red Sun.
Ooh, interesting.
And
wow.
I don't think that had not. I don't think that yet. I mean, that not to the point where it was like, this is what I'm doing. that was not what they said. It was just like an idea that they floated. I read secondhand on Grant's Substack that he said something like, Phillip visibly recoiled when I said that. And I was like, well, I didn't realize that that was what happened, but
it's all right.
I don't know. I don't want to speak for Grant. That was Grant's idea.
There you go. All right.
But the idea that Grant had floated and the idea that they continued on into after that would have had repercussions that went for a long time. And like the idea that there are two Superman, like Superman had been divided in half,
yes.
like the what we saw back in the day.
You're right, the Silver Age story. Yeah.
But along ideological lines is such a monstrous Grant Morrison idea that, frankly, I didn't feel like I could execute. I mean, if because that's something that would have happened in Grant's story, and then would have had played out all the way through Warworld Saga.
Sure.
And the story that I wanted to do in Warworld Saga was already so clear in my head, and it was more about human trafficking and about the dangers of hero worship and propaganda, and there were already very clear themes in there, and also things I wanted to do with the mythology of DC. And I feel like the left-right split of Superman would have kind of sucked all the air out of the room as far
totally
as
understand. Yes,
thematically,
Sure.
So
no, you'd have to adhere to that kind of characterization, and yeah, I think it would interfere with your story. Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I mean, obviously, I think I said this once before. I am not going to tell Grant Morrison shit about how to write Superman. They can do whatever they want.
Of course.
But I did want it to be resolved before we got into Warworld, because it would have completely changed everything that came after that. But we talked at great length. I mean, I'm trying to boil this down to like a podcast, question and answer. But the conversation was much longer than this, and it was much more nuanced. And I don't want this mischaracterized later.
All right, I'm gonna have to bug Grant and see, get his point of view on all.
Yeah, I do. I'd be curious to hear their thoughts on it.
Hey, I'm always up for a new conversation with Grant. Absolutely.
Talking to Grant is such an honor. Like,
absolutely.
Always. I'm going to be in Scotland in like a few months, and
you were saying,
I have not reached out to them yet about.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. You got to make time with them. Absolutely, yeah, the Morrisons.
I really hope that happens. Yeah,
that's wonderful, man. No, I hope it does happen. He's terrific. I talked to him right at the beginning of the pandemic about Green Lantern with Liam Sharp, and had both of them on, and he's just a sweetheart. I mean, I hadn't seen him face to face in years, but he's such a good guy. Yeah, I like Grant a lot, and brilliant writer. So no, I'm with you, man. And again, truly, Warworld is just this. It is. It's the next step after Last God, which is another great story. So for people who haven't read The Last God, you really and are digging Warworld, you really got to grab it. But I'm just so glad that you were able to marry these ideas together, and it's still very much a Superman story, but it has that great heavy metal feeling and everything to it.
Yeah,
both with the art and the story. Absolutely.
Man, I just saw the cover for Superman Warworld Apocalypse. I cannot wait to show you. It is so metal. It's so amazing. This is exactly what I wanted for this thing. It looks unbelievable.
All right. Excuse me. I did not realize that Grant is non-binary and uses they, them. I certainly meant no disrespect. So
no,
Andrew, I'm just throwing it up there to let Andrew know, and anyone else who's reading and watching that is like, hey, Sorry about that. So they are a great writer. I'm a big fan. So anyway, let's talk about Alien, please. What's happening in Marvel and that wonderful story.
Yeah, thanks. So we are about to wrap up the second issue. So excuse me, the second
Second
arc,
arc.
Alien Revival, and that leads to the annual that is also going to be drawn by Salvador LaRocca. That's Salva's last issue in the series, actually.
Wow. Oh, that's too bad, man. Because yeah, he's been killing it.
Yeah, totally. But now the third arc is starting, I believe, the first week of September.
Have they announced
And
the artist?
yeah, the artist is Julius Ota, and
Okay.
Julius is incredible. They're pretty new. They're up and comer. They've done some stuff already at Marvel, just unbelievably good. And I can't say enough good things about him. I mean, he's an amazing collaborator. Amazing, like his drawing chops are top notch, but also just the storytelling chops and just working with him is amazing. So yeah, the third arc is about to begin in September. Let's see. I guess they've already announced it. They've already shown the cover. The name of the arc is Alien Icarus, and it continues the thread that we started in the first arc and the second arc. The subplots of the development of the synths, of the kind of the Cold War heating up between Weyland-Yutani and the nations of Earth. Hey, Nerdette.
Hey, Nerdette.
Let's see, and yeah, that a lot of the threads that we started in the first arc are going to get paid off in this third arc. Now,
Cool.
because of the delays that have happened as a result of the paper shortages and all
Sure.
that stuff, and now the new creative art team, they have decided to launch what was going to be issue number 13 as number 1, and we're kind of making it like a season 2. So because the season 1 was so like cohesive with Salva on art and with the threads tying together, this felt like, because of the delays that have been frustrating for us as the creators and editorial, we've been frustrated not to get the books out on time because they've been done, like they're finished.
Sure.
So COVID kind of ate our lunch. So now that we're about to go back to like proper monthly, we decided to go back to number 1 and do we're treating it like season 1, season 2. So Julius is going to be the artist on season 2. And if the first season was like our answer to the Ridley Scott original film, this is going to be very much like the Cameron. Like this is more of a military kind of approach to it. Tons of action.
Yeah.
It's a let's see, how do I describe it? It's about like a team of synthetic special operators. It's like a synth special ops team, and they have to go to this dead planet and retrieve an egg for the fate of humanity. That deals with a lot of the same kind of sibling drama stuff between the synths and the aliens. All the questions of where we come from that are brought up in the newer Ridley Scott films as well, but visually it's just like an action fest with these synth spec ops, and I'm just so excited. Also, from the very beginning I kind of assumed that we would have characters that we could use from repeated arcs.
Yes.
And they kind of wanted to, like 20th Century kind of wanted to keep it more like contained, kind of the way some of the movies are.
Okay.
And I'm starting to kind of steer them in that direction of like having characters hold over, and that starts with season 2.
So with that in mind, Z Swimmer, wanted to know, are the first 2 arcs critical to understand what's happening in the third arc, or does it just pay off fans who have stuck around since the first issue, especially with the season talk?
It pays off fans who've been around from the beginning for sure, but they are self-contained in the way that 20th Century wanted.
Okay.
So anyone can pick up any of the arcs, and they can stand alone in the way that the Dark Horse arcs stood alone.
Yes. Yes.
That was one really nice thing about the Dark Horse books, is that each one is its own thing. These are also standalone, but they do connect. There's a lot more connective tissue between them if you're looking for it, if that makes sense. So we're very careful about how to thread that needle. We really wanted to have them connect in certain ways, without making them dependent on each other. So you got to go from number 1 to number 2 all the way down the line. So every arc is its own thing, but they do connect.
Excellent. We've been going for 90 minutes. Do you want to wrap? Because I understand I don't want to take away from family time, or do we want to get a couple other quick questions in?
We can get a couple more questions in.
Okay,
You
David
know,
Santos wants to know: are we going to get more backstory on OMAC in your Superman run, or will it be
we
left for other books?
not an abundance of backstory, but Grant did have like an origin in mind for OMAC that is pretty awesome, and it's a tragedy it's not in the book yet. It's just a matter of space and making sure that all the characters get their due and all that. So I've been focusing with regard to OMAC. I've been more just making sure we get in a lot of time fleshing out OMAC's relationship with Light Ray and
Yeah.
His quest to get Light Ray back and everything. So that's a big deal in the book, and that's going to continue to be. So as far as where OMAC comes from, who he is, you know, yeah, I shouldn't spoil anything, but I would love to tell that story down the line. Honestly, I think Grant should tell that story because I mean Grant's story between what they had planned for OMAC and what they had planned for Light Ray and that little kryptonite bombshell at the very end of the series. And then they just left the book and was like, end of the miniseries. I'm like, oh crap, I guess I got to do this now. I would love to have Grant, come back and tell the story of OMAC in some book sometime. But if not, I will hopefully get to it.
Okay, Z Swimmer wants to know, as we mentioned, Dark Horse's run on Aliens. Any of the old runs of Alien, are they your favorite from the Dark Horse era?
Dave Gibbons and Mike Mignola did a really awesome one. Is it Salvation? Is that what it was called?
I believe that's well, and or are we thinking of? Yeah, I believe so.
It's some kind of churchy word. The name escapes me,
I'm
but
with you.
there are religious overtones in the book, and I believe Dave Gibbons wrote it and Mignola drew it certainly, and it's incredibly cool. I love it. I also love the James Stokoe. I hope I'm saying James' name right. I don't know him, but yeah, James's art on that last one was super dope. I admit I love that last one mostly because the art is just so like James is just so incredible at making everything look
Very
just
distinct.
like
Very distinct.
gross and
Yeah, yeah.
creepy and just awesome. Gosh, what else? There's so many Dark Horse Alien books. The stuff that tied into Alien Isolation. There's a game I really love, Alien Isolation. That's about Ripley's daughter. That was super well done. I love that game, and they did some novels and comics also that tied into that were really good. But my heart belongs to that Gibbons Mignola.
That's cool. That's excellent, man. Yeah, I agree with Z, who says Stokoe is an amazing artist. I so agree. No, always distinct. His stuff, very cool.
Oh, Kelly, again, I don't know how to say this. Kelly, 1996 is asking, will we get an explanation for the kryptonite is a lie and Superman the Authority? Awesome. I'm going to need to round up with Grant before I get to that because I want to make sure, because that line is just like a nuclear bomb in DC continuity. So like,
yeah, what does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of know, like, I know
Okay.
I know what Grant intended. I totally know, but
Got it.
I have questions and
No, that's
want
cool.
to make sure I sort it out before I step in it and mess everything up. But I would love to address it. It would be an honor to pick up any kind of threads that Grant dropped. I do want to real bad. So yeah.
Well, regardless, I'm thrilled that post-war world you've got plans and there's a lot more story to tell. That
Yeah.
was my fear about Superman leaving, and also the way things were teased in Future State, that the focus was going to be completely on Jonathan, and we would miss uh you know Cal's story and Clark's story. And I it's I and again, this is just me as a reader, and I don't want you to spoil uh acknowledge, building on whatever I say, but it's like I'm for these legacy characters to happen. I think it's terrific. I also do want these originals to stick around. I think that was Marvel's great mistake a few years ago when, whether it was by design or as the writers have told me, no, it just kind of happened that way. We had Amadeus Cho as the Hulk, you had Sam Wilson as Cap, you had Ironheart, Riri Williams, all great characters, and especially the Sam Wilson as Captain America. I'm a massive fan of that. But that said, it's like, yeah, I still want to see a Steve Rogers story. I still want to see a Tony Stark story. I still want to see a Bruce Banner story. I really felt Jason did it the best, and that's why I'm looking forward to the Thor movie, because clearly that's the plan for Thor in a different way. But that's why, like during Jason's run, as much as we were exploring Jane Foster as Thor, the Odin son wasn't, out of the picture and stuff. And it was like, well, who is Thor if he's not Thor? If he's not allowed to have the hammer anymore, who is Thor? And I think that's a great thing to explore on a dual track. And again, Superman having his hands full in War World and powers diminished, and again having to show that he's Superman whether he's got full powers or not.
Yeah, I know. I was really, really excited to do the Superman War World saga. And again, we're trying to make this big volume that people turn back to that's evergreen. Like we're talking about the monthly book sometime in the Metropolis like house in DC. We're talking about
Sure.
Monthlies and all that.
Yeah.
But we're not just writing for month. I am not creating just for the monthlies. I'm not thinking about Action Comics number 1042 or whatever. At least not just that. I'm thinking about Watchmen. Like I want to.
Yeah, man, attaboy.
We're trying to make something big that lasts forever. That says something about what Superman is, that inspires people forever in a way that a single comic is hard to pull off. I'm trying to tell like a larger story about like a statement of what Superman is and what he should be and who we should be. And we're going to continue to do that on Earth too. And I really wanted to do it. War World Saga was like, I was all about it, but I understood what the sacrifices would be. Like, as long we could boil Superman down to his sci-fi like nature and do this amazing world building cosmic story and show what he means to the multiverse. But I understood that we were going to lose out on a lot of time with Lois and a lot of time with his son, a lot of time with the rest of the super family, with Kara, who I think is fucking awesome and is like the most Kryptonian of any of them because of her own life on Krypton that we don't see explored often enough.
Agreed.
So if the War World Saga is all about seeing Superman at his heart, at his core, without just the powers and trappings, what's coming next is going to be about the super family.
Excellent. Wow. Very cool, Philip. I'm really glad that you are able to tell these epic stories. And again, that's what every comic book writer should be shooting for, unless they're doing literally an inventory story. But even in those cases, where it's like, all right, if something, falls behind on the monthly progression, we've got a story, ready to drop if we need to, if the writer and the artist need more time. But even in those cases as well, because there are great single issue stories over the years.
There are. One of my earliest things at DC was this thing that is so far not seen daylight that I would love to get put out. They when I did the DC Writers Workshop real early on, I'd already done the Aquaman thing by then. I did like an Aquaman annual.
Who taught during the DC Writers Workshop? Who were the teachers for that?
Scott Snyder.
It was purely Scott. Okay, go on.
It was pretty much all Scott. He brought in DiDio one day. He brought in an editor or two. There were a couple of editors, Sarah Miller and
okay.
Oh my God, I'm a horrible person. I'm drawing a blank. Okay, I'm just gonna,
sorry, man.
Write a letter of extreme apology later for forgetting her name. But these really beautiful editors, awesome people who were also involved. But Scott was primarily the teacher. Yeah.
Okay. So go on. Yeah. What I don't know if you can tell. I don't want you to spoil the story. If again, it's
no. Well, I ended up doing a Batgirl one shot.
Oh wow.
That like they were like, here's your assignment. Your assignment is to do a Batgirl one shot. So I did that, and it was a story about, it was like a murder mystery, and she has to solve it within by the end of the issue. It's like a super time sensitive, like a race against time kind of thing. And it introduced a serial killer from when she was a kid who kind of reemerges later when she's Batgirl. So we're seeing somebody who's like a proto theatrical Batman villain before Batman was actually around. And it was really fun. Let's see, what did I call that guy? The Scrimshaw Devil. And it was really fun. And hopefully that story eventually gets released.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. That would be terrific, man.
That was with Aman K. Nwelpon, who went on to do great things at DC and still kicking ass there now.
Very cool. The current group of kids that are learning from Snyder through his Substack, they have approached me about their anthology that's coming out later this year, and I'm definitely going to have some people on to talk about that. I think I'm glad that Scott's doing this, and I'm glad he's continuing to do it on his own through Substack. yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Excuse me, the editors that were involved in that were Sarah Miller and Bobby Chase. I'm so sorry, Bobby.
Oh, sure. No, I'm glad. Hey, bud,
Um,
believe me, it only gets worse when you hit your 50s. I'll warn. I'll warn you now.
yeah,
So,
I've not spoken to Bobby in way too long. But she's a really amazing person. Sarah too. It was a huge honor to work with both of them, and Scott. Scott is a consummate teacher. Um, I was a huge fan of his ever since American Vampire, just as a writer. And then, I mean, and based on his book of short fiction, Voodoo Heart, which is also incredible. It's just a book of prose stories. If anyone's not read it, it's amazing. And he brought all those same chops to Batman and American Vampire. And
oh yeah,
but man, his teaching is every bit as good, if not stronger. It was just so helpful. So yeah, highly recommend anyone follow him on Substack or the videos he puts out.
okay. You see, Handsome Corpus comment. He loves your Superman book. It's gotten him back into the character, and Christopher Reeve is his favorite as well.
No,
David
thanks, brother. I
wants to
appreciate that.
certainly. David wants you to know your thoughts on House of Dragon.
Forgive my ignorance. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either, but he also had a follow up. What surprising DC character do you want to write?
Like
Surprising,
something that would surprise readers, like listeners, I guess.
I guess.
I think I'm not sure if anyone who follows me, this will not be a surprise for them. But I deeply love Hellblazer. I'd love to write
Oh, that's
Hellblazer.
great. Earlier, someone asked what your favorite Hellblazer story is.
I really love the Diggle run, man.
Cool.
I think that the Diggle, like the Laughing Magician, I think is about as good as it gets. And he had this really creepy, well, not just creepy, but like terrifying villain named Mako. It's like this like war mage, like a modern day, like an African warlord that you might see on the news with like child soldiers and stuff, but with power of like super dark blood magic and everything, just like this super scary guy that would like get the powers of these magicians through. Yeah, it's actually, I should shut up. It's super dark, but it's incredibly good. And the art also by Leonardo Manco is incredible. Love that run. I could go on we should probably not go into the weeds about Hellblazer because I will not shut up. But I'd love to write Hellblazer. Let's see, Spectre, Deadman, all the creepy dudes are really awesome. I'm kind of a picky pants about how people write Etrigan.
Interesting. The demon, of course.
The fact that he has to rhyme all the time just kind of brings out the artist in me, makes me want to go nuts. So I kind of want to write Etrigan at some point and kind of lay down the law on how to write Etrigan.
Very cool. Z Swimmer wants you to know what you think of Sai's current Hellblazer run.
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second.
Sai Spurrier, what you think of Sai's Hellblazer run?
Incredible.
Yeah,
I thought it is incredibly good, and the art too by Campbell was so. Oh God, yeah, both those guys are dear friends, and the art was amazing. The story was amazing. I love writing like British dialogue, and I'm like, I can totally do this book. Like, give me Hellblazer. I want it so bad. But the way Sai writes dialogue is so incredible. I mean, I was so blown away by that book. Like, I thought I knew how to write Hellblazer, and then I read Sai's take on it, and Sai just clearly put all of himself into that book. And
that's cool.
Aaron too, man. I could not. Yeah, I love that book.
No, I understand, man. I'm a big Jenkins fan, big Azzarello fan, Jamie Delano. Again, much like my Bond thing, I've been very satisfied with the various creators that have written Hellblazer, and I would love to see you do it at some point. Now, RP Chatham, we did kind of address this before, but he was saying, any chance you might tackle the Green Lantern world aside from the Dark Crisis tie-in?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, it's all about bandwidth, right? Like I'm not gonna give away action for anything. I love writing action comics. I don't see myself giving that up. I mean, it's the changing around of creative teams is something that happens all the time.
Of course.
To maintain interest and freshness, and
certainly.
keep readers looking. So nothing, you don't want any of the books to start to look like the furniture, feel like the furniture. And like, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's just this book that's been there for years. So I'm not going to
sure.
bother. It's, people will freshen up books by changing up creative teams all the time. At some point they'll move me off of it. But man, I'm going to keep every page I can. So if it's a question of choosing between action and literally anything else, I'd rather not. But but I do have a lot of big thoughts on Green Lantern and how we can make it incredibly, not just big and old and all the things that I always do, where like just blowing everything out, but also making it really exciting and just, oh God, what's even the word? Just epic. Like I want it like Jason and the Argonauts, but this gigantic adventure with the biggest, oldest, most badass police force in the multiverse.
Cool. That's excellent, man. Murad, I put your comment up, but Philip has earlier in the conversation teased ideas post World. So I will suggest you rewind and listen in detail, unless Philip wants to expand on anything right
now. Let's see.
He says, after World, is there a powered up Clark Kent in your run?
I shouldn't say.
Okay, fair enough. There you go.
Yeah, I don't
I understand.
I don't want to get into details.
All good, buddy. Again, say the word because the comments keep coming. If you need to wrap,
we probably do a couple more, and I should go and.
Okay, very fast. Denny Dude wants to know any creator-owned works in the pipeline.
Yes. Yeah, I just pitched a thing that's again, I've already been very vocal about my love for Brubaker and Phillips, and I've got something that scratches that itch more directly.
A crime thing?
Yeah.
Exciting. Very exciting.
And not just crime, but like a kind of a dark take on it. And
very cool.
Not that crime is ever like, well, it can be fun, I guess. Sex criminals out there. There's fun crime books.
Oh yeah. But there's always room for more. I mean, I'm a massive crime comic fan, so no, I'm always excited when I hear someone's thinking about it.
I've got this weird fascination with noir stories, but also with like serial killer stories and like hitman stories. Like just there's certain kind of things that have been kind of in my mind a long time. I got really into like ripperology for a while. You know anything about that? There's this whole subculture of people who just like get really into
Jack the Ripper,
the Jack the Ripper mythos and like trying to figure out who did it and all that. For some reason, my dad's super intense and dark and crazy. And when I was and quite a bit older than you would expect, and he sent me. We don't talk a whole lot. And when I was kind of new in the Washington D.C. area, he sent me 3 books, nonfiction books about like each one with a different book on Jack the Ripper and a different theory about who Jack the Ripper was. And there wasn't like a letter in it in the box or anything. It was just like just books on Jack the Ripper. And I was like, is this a confession or like, what am I looking at here? And it kind of sent me down the rabbit hole. And I mean, I'd already been curious about Jack the Ripper before that, but and like the book From Hell is one of the scarier comics I've read. I thought it was super effective. So this is not exactly that. This is a very American take on mental illness and noir storytelling and crime and kind of told in the setting of COVID.
Wow.
That I think there's not a lot. I mean, books should reflect life in some way, kind of tell us deeper truths and all that. And I don't see a lot of books with people wearing masks or kind of figuring out how to live their lives anymore. And I get it. I mean, I think there's like a hesitance on the part of publishers, maybe even the part of creators.
Escapism, yeah.
They don't want to date themselves like, oh, here's a book that came out during COVID because everyone's got a mask on, and like, I think people are kind of thinking like, oh, we're going to get past it, and then this book will be very dated. But I think one of the more impactful issues of a comic I've read during COVID was this issue of Ice Cream Man that dealt with it head on, where there was this little kid looking through a window at the people outside and kind of like drawing little things on the glass, like listening to these very destructive like arguments happening in their family behind her while she's kind of playing out little stories in her head with people outside, kind of looking at people outside through this glass, and she's not sure she's ever going to come through again. I just found it so captivating and haunting. And I have kind of my answer to that I want to tell.
Very exciting. Excellent, man. Dude, as always, great conversation, great ideas, and I appreciate the questions that everybody put out for you today. Keep up the great work, as I always say, and I mean it, because it's terrific. And seriously, I really appreciate our friendship, and I'm glad that we've gotten to know each other the last couple of years. It's
Me
always good to
too.
see you.
Love you, John. Always great seeing you.
Likewise,
Thanks.
buddy.
Thanks for your time, brother.
Truly, I feel the same way. Philip Kennedy Johnson, everybody. Massive plans as we head into the fall, both summer and fall months. Lots of War World, lots of Alien, Volume 3 coming up, and of course the James Bond run, and apparently some creator-owned ideas as well.
Yes,
So
indeed.
watch for the bat signal for the updates from Philip. But yeah, and everyone, I love all the comments that everybody's saying here. This is great. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. As always, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.